E-invoicing in Saudi Arabia was introduced as an extension of the economic renaissance and digital transformation. Zatca E-Tax and Customs Authority, Zatca has issued the requirements, technical specifications, controls, and procedural rules for implementing Phase 2 of e-invoicing in Saudi Arabia. According to this, we have brought about updates in our ERP software to meet the standards introduced by Zatca. This video will give you a detailed description of the integration with Zatca in our ERP system, right from the Zatca registration till the submission of invoices to Zatca. First, let's log into the user. The first and major step in the Zatca integration process is the generation of production CSID. Before that, we have to update the warehouse and customer details. According to Zatca regulations, we can set up multiple locations with different addresses. So according to this, we can create more than one location on the warehouse screen and give the mandatory details for a sales invoice as per Zatca regulations here. If we don't want to keep multiple locations, we can give the company address and details as you want to give in the invoice on the warehouse screen. Similarly, in customer creation screen, also certain details are made mandatory. If only these details are filled out as per Zatca regulations, the QR code will be generated. After entering the relevant details, we can proceed with the generation of production CSID with Zatca. For this, we have created a screen called Zatca Registration here. Go to the Manage Companies section. We can see a button Zatca Registration there. Click on the button to go to the window for registration. All the details in this window will be auto-filled using the information that the company has already given. The only things we need to fill in are the invoice type, location address, industry business category, API mode, and OTP. The invoice type may be of two types. A simplified, which is issued in case the invoice is raised for an amount less than 1,000 SAR and the customer is not registered under the VAT. Standard tax invoices are issued for business-to-business and B2G transactions. Also, buyers use B2B invoices for claiming input VAT deduction. The company can select standard invoice, simplified invoice, or both standard and simplified invoice as per the nature of business of them. In the next field, we can give the location address of the business. Provide the industry business category in the next field. There are two API modes available here. The simulation is used at the pre-production stage for testing, and the production mode is used when the site becomes live after setting up all the integration from Zatca. Based on the API mode selected, Zatca will issue the OTP. Click on Validate button to validate the OTP. After validating the OTP, Zatca will verify and provide validations as shown. Here the public key status, private key status and CSR status are generated from our side for API calling. The compliance CSID status, compliance invoice status and production CSID status are generated while we submit the API with Zatca. The production CSID expiry date will be shown below. After the expiry date, the production CSID needs to be renewed. We can see it. Click here to edit OTP and API mode button here. This is shown when we have chosen the simulation mode here to move to the production mode. Once we choose the production mode, it will no longer be available there. The Zatca registration process is completed now. Now let's move to the creation of sales order. For this, go to Business, Sales, Invoicing. Click on the Add New button to add a new sales order. This is the sales order creation screen. Here we can see the selection for invoice and debit note. If the invoice is selected, we can create a normal sales invoice. Debit notes are used for adding more lines to an existing sales invoice. We can also see the selection called Normal Sales and Export Sales. The normal sales are selected for the sales that are done in Saudi Arabia. For export sales, the tax will always be 0. If we select Export Sales, an additional field will appear to give the VAT exemption reason. We can choose any reason from this and create the invoice. After selecting this, we can fill in the details of the sales, such as sales order type, cost center, customer, salesperson, date, narration, payment terms, etc. in the respective fields. We can select the item and give the quantity and After entering all the items, click on the print button. Now the invoice is generated without the QR code. For generating the invoice with QR code, click on Post and New button. Now the sales order will be posted. Only after posting, the invoice will be listed for submission with Zatca. Next, for submission of invoice with Zatca, go to Zatca, Invoice, Zatca E-invoice, or Debit Note Reporting or Clearance Submission. In the screen, all the posted invoices will be listed. Select the invoice that is to be submitted to Zatca and click on the Submit to Zatca button. Now the invoice is submitted to Zatca. We can see the submitted invoices by changing the filter. Now the Zatca submission status is changed to cleared, as it is a standard invoice. If it is simplified invoice, the status will be shown as reported under the status. The Zatca valid is shown as pass. This means that all the details of the invoice are correct and validated by Zatca. If there is any kind of small error in the invoice filed, the Zatca validation status will be shown as warning, and if there is any major error, an error message will be shown in Zatca validation status. After selecting the invoice and clicking on the print button, we can see the invoice printed with QR code. When we scan the QR code with the dedicated app, we will obtain a result as this. This QR code is generated with the new fields provided by Zatca. Alternatively, there is an option to directly post the invoice and submit it to Zatca. For this, select the sales invoice to post. In the Actions combo, there is an option Post and Zatca. Click on it. Now we will be directed to the Zatca E-invoice or Debit Note Reporting or Clearance Submission. We can see the invoice as submitted and cleared from Zatca. Clicking on the sales order ID, we can go back to the invoice screen and take the print from there. Now let's look how to add more products to an existing sales order. As said earlier, debit notes are used for adding more lines to an existing sales invoice. For adding lines to an existing sales order, go to the sales invoice creation screen. Click on the Add New button. Here we can select Debit Note to add new lines to an existing sales order. The sales order to which it is added can be selected from the Billing Reference Sales Order combo box. The details in the header section will be filled in by default according to the sales order we have selected. In the Item Selection section, add the items you want to add to the sales order. Now, just like sales order, you can either post it and submit to Zatca later, or you can post and submit to Zatca simultaneously using the Post and Zatca Submission button. Now the sales order is submitted to Zatca with the reference of the already submitted sales order. Next, we can look at the creation of sales return and its submission to Zatca. The sales return can be created against the sales order. Select the sales order against which we want to create the sales return. Click on the Actions button. Select Credit Note and click on Go. Now we will be moved to the sales return screen. The item in the sales order will be listed here. If we want to change the quantity to return, we can change it. We can take the print of the sales return made. Click on Post and New to post the sales return. Just as sales invoice, either we can click on Direct Post and Zatca button in the Actions combo box and post it. Or we can post and then submit it from Zatca, Credit Note, Zatca E-credit note reporting and clearance submission. This is all about the process involved in the submission of a sales invoice and sales return to Zatca. Thank you.